Hello ladies and gentlemen, Josh aka Fox King here, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to pick the right weapon for your class based on the skills that you're using and your playstyle. Now, as a fighting game, obviously weapons are very important in DFO, and while it may seem evident which weapons you should be using, and for certain classes it is much easier to tell than others, but just to make sure that you know how your damage is really being calculated and how to pick which weapon you should be using, I'm going to give you a brief rundown about all of the individual properties of weapons and how they fit into your skill's damage modifiers. So, the first thing that I want to say is that for every class, there is a spectrum of weapons, in which on one end of the spectrum you have low physical damage, high magic attack weapons, and on the other side you have high physical attack, low magical attack. And there are weapons that fill the in-between as well. So, I have open just Albert's shop to show you an example of this. So, I'm playing as a Slayer, so the weapons all default to Slayer classes, but this is true across all classes. So you have the Katana and the Short Sword, which are both high magic attack, low physical attack, and then you have the Bludgeon and the Zambato, which are high physical attack, low magic attack. But each one of these weapons has slightly different properties from its counterpart on its side of the spectrum. For instance, you take a Short Sword. It has the same physical attack power as a katana, but it has higher magic attack. So that would make it sound like it's just inherently better than a katana. But it only has 12 intelligence rating, whereas its same level, same rarity counterpart katana has 18 intelligence, as well as 12 strength. So these differences are going to be what makes the distinction between which classes benefit more from one or the other. And of course, it's similar with the physical side, except bludgeons have lower physical attack and higher strength. And again, like I said, same deal with every other class that you're going to have these kinds of distinctions. So, what do those numbers mean to you based on the skills that you use? So I'm going to open up the skills menu and I'm going to show you. So when you mouse over a skill, if you press the F4 button, it'll show you a layout, oops, I think I already had it open, I did, of the details of the damage and all of the other attributes to the skill. So this skill here that I'm showing you is Bloody Twister, and at the very top in this box, I would move my mouse, but it would deselect the skill. It says physical weapon attack 1231%. That percent uses the physical attack power of your weapon. So opening up my inventory and getting rid of this, that is just the plain physical power that is shown on the weapon. It's not calculating in strength or anything like that, just the physical attack power. Now, if I move over to this skill, you'll see that it's a little bit different, because rather than saying it's a percentage, it just shows a flat amount. So this one says 17,630 shockwave attack. That damage does not take into effect your weapon's physical attack. I could take off my weapon and do almost the same amount of damage, but not quite, because these damages, called base damages, are modified by two properties. One of which is, if I'll pull this up again, the base attack of your weapon. Now, base attack is determined strictly by the level of the weapon and the rarity. So, this is a Zambato that has 270 base attack. If I had a magic sealed short sword, it would have the same base attack, as would a bludgeon or a katana. So it doesn't matter which kind of weapon you have to make your base attack go higher in terms of this number that's shown here on the weapon. But there is another factor which base damages take into account, and that is strength and intelligence, depending on if the attack deals physical or magical damage. So this weapon has a strength of 39, meaning that, and I don't know the exact calculations, the mathematical calculations, but I would get however much damage increase 39 strength does using this weapon over using a short sword that has no strength value. And this is when it becomes slightly more complicated determining which weapon you want to use, because while a Zambato has the highest physical power in the game for a Slayer class, a Bludgeon has a higher strength rating. So you need to determine if your skills that you're using apply more percent damage or base damage. And the same side will go for magic damage. If you have magic base damage, you want high intelligence, and if you have high magic percent damage, you want more magical attack. And also, if you're playing a class that uses its basic attack a lot, you want to factor in, do you use your basic attack more often than you use your skills that have base damage? So, if you do, and your skills mostly use base damage, but you find yourself basic attacking more often, you may be willing to sacrifice the strength bonus for physical attack, which does factor into your basic attack damage. And of course, attack speed is also something to take into account. Now, I don't know if this is a change, or if this is just the way that speeds are categorized. It shows that a Bludgeon and a Zambato are both slow. I'm pretty sure Bludgeons are faster. They used to be. So even if something says, it's the same speed as something else, you might want to play around with it a little bit and see if it really is the same speed, because sometimes that can make a difference. And you will also change your weapon based on if you're PvE or PvP, as faster attack speeds are often considered very valuable in PvP because they allow you to juggle better and wait for your skills cooldowns to come off sooner. And that's another thing that I wanted to talk to you about, is another property that every weapon has that some new players might overlook. And that is that every weapon modifies your skill's mana cost and the cooldowns in some way. So, I'm going to show you this Zambato again, and you will see underneath the speed it says physical skill MP plus 20%, and then cooldown, and it goes off the screen, but I'll tell you it's cooldown plus 20% and magical skill MP minus 10%. That means that though this is a physical weapon, your physical skills are going to cost more MP and have longer cooldowns. And that's always going to be how it is with every class and weapon, is that the skills that are powered up most by the weapon you're using are the ones that are going to cost more and have higher cooldowns. So if you want to be a skill spammer and not necessarily be too concerned about the damage you deal, you may want to go with a weapon that'll do slightly less damage, but will have a shorter cooldown period for them. Which is why you'll occasionally see, say, Berserkers using a katana, because it reduces the base MP cost and cooldowns of them, and increases the magical ones instead, which you don't have to worry about because you're a physical class. And again, I'm talking strictly about like a Berserker just because it's the character I have up at the moment. This is always true with every other kind of character. So, I hope this was informative. I don't want to make this video too long. I'm going to put out another video soon after this, in which I'm going to explain how reinforcement, amplification, and refinement work. And that is very related to what I just talked about here. So if you're not familiar with those processes, feel free to check out that video right after this one. And if you learned something, please leave a like, subscribe if you want to get updates as to when I put out more tutorials like this, and leave a comment if there's something that you want me to talk about in the future, so that, I have stuff to talk about, and so that you guys learn what you need to learn. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.